What's up, gang? Kevin Cage here with another crypto update. We're going to dive into a bunch in today's video, including this Chinese fintech giant that chose the XRP ledger for its digital strategy. And this group has already done over $28 billion in total revenue, and they are laying the groundwork, like Crypto Eddie says, for global supply chain financial applications. So let's dive into today's video. So first up, if you guys haven't seen this already, we have Gemini, the crypto exchange. They have launched an XRP edition Gemini credit card. And now everybody with this card can earn up to 4% XRP back on every purchase with no annual fee. So pretty cool to see this. We also have Ripple CEO Brad showing a picture of the credit card and making a tweet about it. And in Gemini's blog post, Gemini releases XRP edition of the Gemini credit card and broadens availability of the Ripple US dollar for US customers. And with this card, customers can earn up to 4% back in XRP on gas, EV charging, and rideshare, 3% back on dining, 2% back on groceries, and 1% back on other purchases. So dang, I might actually have to get this. We can see that they are partnering with select merchants to offer up to 10% back on qualifying purchases. So down below we have Gemini explaining why they're expanding into the XRP offering, discussing the growth they've seen for those users who just held their XRP rewards for at least 1 year and those rewards absolutely exploded. And as we scroll down, if you're interested, you can get additional information at gemini.com/XRP, and we'll go down to the FAQ because I was reading through that. So who can apply for the Gemini credit card? Residents in all 50 US states and Puerto Rico. Woot woot. We got, does the Gemini card work with Apple Pay, Google Pay, and Samsung? Yes. And the best part about this, looking at their terms, is there is no annual fee, so that's nice. And other than that, it's good to see that the Ripple US dollar was listed on Gemini, the exchange, back in May. What's crazy about this is we have Gemini actually surpasses Coinbase on US iOS App Store following the launch of its XRP MasterCard. Now this was yesterday, but we can see at this time that Gemini ranked in the 16th spot and Coinbase was number 20. Alright, next up, we have a really interesting clip from billionaire Bill Miller pointing out the $60 trillion in global retirement accounts, and just 1% of that could add $30,000 to Bitcoin's price. Just 1%.
Every 1% allocation from that 60 trillion adds $30,000 to Bitcoin's price. And so from my perspective, a 2% allocation would be conservative when you consider that all of those assets are currently in a monetary framework whose authorities have told you they want to depreciate it by 2% a year. So why wouldn't those accounts stake 2% of everything denominated in melting ice cube and stick it in another protocol altogether? So again, that alone would take us to Bitcoin at 175K, or up more than 50% from here. We still think we are incredibly early. We're still seeing early signs of institutional adoption. You look at Norges, the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, almost $2 trillion in assets, has been increasing its exposure to Bitcoin digital assets. It's still a rounding error for them. But when the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, the world's largest endowment in Harvard is now buying Bitcoin, starts to do it, that opens up the door for all the other relevant parties, other endowments, other sovereign wealth funds to do this in a very interesting way.
And that's exactly why I've had a Roth IRA in the crypto space since 2020 with iTrustCapital. This is linked in the top of the YouTube video description or right in my link tree. So what Bill said is that there are $60 trillion in the global retirement market, and every 1% essentially would add up to $30,000 to Bitcoin's price. And that would mean that if years in the future, Bitcoin, instead of getting a 1% allocation, got even a 10% allocation of that $60 trillion, that would be an additional $300,000 added to Bitcoin's price. Now, Bitcoin's market cap is over $2 trillion, but historically, the more money that comes into Bitcoin, the better opportunity there is for a bunch of other alts. We all know that the crypto asset class is risky. It has its ups, it has its downs, but even just considering a small allocation, you can still have a Roth IRA in the S&P 500 and be safe with the bulk of your holdings. But having some money in the crypto asset class for that asymmetric potential and that upside, to me, that's a no-brainer. Because I won't be hitting retirement age in decades, so I absolutely want to make sure that I have a nest egg in the crypto space that grows 100% tax-free. And if I made some crazy wealth and I thought that crypto was risky, I wanted to de-risk, I could actually just de-risk and go back to another custodian like Vanguard and go play in the S&P 500. And it's nice that that's an option, but I'd rather just hold on iTrust because then I can go between holding the US dollar when I want to de-risk and then entering into different assets. But it's nice to always have those options and be flexible. Alright, next up, if you guys haven't seen this, we'll be super quick with this so that we can get into that Chinese fintech giant for supply chain choosing the XRP ledger, but we have right here the other day, Ripple and SBI plan to distribute Ripple US dollar in Japan. So here we can see we have Ripple, we have SBI Holdings, and then down below their subsidiary SBI VC Trade. And we can see that they announced a new MOU, which is a Memorandum of Understanding for SBI VC Trade. We can see that they are a fully regulated service provider in Japan, and they outlined in this MOU their intention to distribute RLUSD, the Ripple US dollar, in Japan. And in quotes, valued at nearly $300 billion today, the stablecoin market is expected to grow into the trillions in the coming years. We've talked about stablecoin dominance before and speculated and looked at some of the predictions of the stablecoin market cap alone to reach $2.8 trillion by 2028. So basically, we're familiar with the Ripple US dollar, and we have SBI VC Trade aims to make the Ripple US dollar available in Japan during the first quarter of 2026. And speaking of that time frame, I would love to see the spot XRP ETFs in the US be approved before then. Alright, let's dive into the meat and potatoes. So we have this originally shared by Crypto Eddie. So we have this group Linklogis, or Linklogis. I'm going to say Linklogis in the XRPL.
联谊融国际
Yeah, I'm not saying that. So I'm sure you guys have seen all the headlines about this Chinese fintech giant integrating a $1 trillion supply chain finance platform with the XRP ledger. And I'm assuming this platform's enabling the tokenization of trade assets, cross-border payments, RWAs, and using AI to kind of power decisions. And we have to think about this being built because this is going to be launching stablecoins and even leverage DeFi products for international trade. And we can see that this group right here fully launched its global trade finance digital assetization, I would just say tokenization strategy, in the first half of the year and launched Stablecoin Plus with digital trade token DTT, digital trade token, and trade financial asset tokenization ABT, so asset-backed tokens. So why is this relevant for the XRP ledger and XRP? Because this group chose the XRP ledger as part of its global digital asset strategy. And these ABTs, or these asset-backed tokens, are essentially trade finance instruments that can be tokenized, and these are the exact type of assets that the XRP ledger can settle cheaply and instantly. So big thank you to Crypto Eddie. Be sure to go check this out. She did a really good write-up with sources down below and recommends anybody researching this or wanting to do due diligence to please do so in Chinese. And this is the official name of how you pronounce it in China, but I guess we're just going to call it Linklogis. So I believe operating in a couple dozen countries, large revenue, licensed money transmitters connected to the BIS projects or partner in those projects, just a lot going on. So just think of the XRP ledger being plugged in to these tokenized assets to be able to settle all of this in a decentralized way, basically no fees whatsoever if you guys know the XRPL when you compare it to ETH, and it's going to be instant. And this is all connected to the same narrative that Ripple has been preaching worldwide for payments, stablecoins, and RWAs and tokenization. And just to get an idea of how big this opportunity or this market opportunity is, we have the supply chain finance market by 2030 expected to reach $112 billion. And obviously other markets like the financial services market for apps is going to keep growing with the help of AI. But what's really important to note here for actual investors for the long term that want to have a long-term exposure in the crypto space, we are seeing projects being built. They're being built to be interoperable with these networks or even being chosen as a strategy partner. That's exactly what we want to see. We want to see these applications being built in a compliant way so that they can actually be used at scale and connected to these public blockchain networks. So I know it's slow some days, but we're seeing exactly what we need to see. Other than that, we have a few more things and we'll call it a day. So we have shared by CME Group. CME Crypto Futures open interest crossed $30 billion, and XRP hit $1 billion in just 3 months, the fastest ever according to CME. I think we're seeing a correlation with this absolutely exploding and even the Gemini credit cards and the usage surpassing Coinbase in the App Store. And last but not least, we have a really good blog put out by the Hedera Foundation, so feel free to check this out. And this blog does a really good job going over Hedera's features, explaining retail versus institutional grade DeFi infrastructure, going over the difference between legacy DeFi and what sets Hedera DeFi apart. Going through a bunch, including the flat gas fee of around $0.001 US, so a tenth of a cent. For every single transaction, it's stable, it's predictable, and it's instant. And they go through real-world applications for everyday users and institutions, so we can see sending $10 to a family member overseas and paying less than the cost of a text message. Going over micropayments for content or subscriptions, and even using the example of institutions being able to settle with finality, which is a fraction of the cost compared to traditional finance. So really good info if you're in the Hedera ecosystem. I really want to see DeFi across the board for the crypto space make a big comeback. We want to see that liquidity enter the crypto space so that TVL for different protocols can get back up there and we can have some really fun price action. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. We have Bitcoin on the monthly at 112K. It is still above that 8-month EMA. That level is right around today 101, 102K. And we have Bitcoin dominance right around 58%. Hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and I will catch you in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash the like button and let me know your thoughts down below. You can find all links to my crypto resources, including tools for charting, trading bots, wallets, portfolio trackers, and exclusive discounts right in my link tree in the video description. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.